So, welcome back to the channel. The thing that we're going to fix today is a wood-burning stove fan. So this is a stove fan for about sort of 5 or 6 years. It's quite a nice one. It's quite a low-profile one, so it fits in well in our particular stove configuration we've got. And this is a dual fan version. Essentially, the way it works is you've got this sits on top of the stove. So, stove sits on top of the stove like that. I know you're viewing from above, but I think you get the point. And obviously this heats up, this part heats up, and in between the base plate and the top, there's a thing called a Peltier effect pile. I'll show you one of those a bit later. And essentially what that does is when it gets hot, when it's hot on one side and cold on the other, it gives you an electrical current. It basically gives you, I don't know, sort of 3 or 4 volts or so and some current. And you can see the wires that are coming out of the Peltier effect pile here. That then drives the 2 fans, they spin, which of course draws air over this part of the top part of the mechanism, which cools down, so therefore you've got a temperature differential between the base and the top. So what I found is that when I first bought it, it lasted for about 3 years, and then the Peltier effect pile basically died, gave up the ghost. And so I bought some of these ones, which are you can get these from Amazon. And they are in fact Peltier effect piles. So this is the plate that's inside this. So one side needs to be hot, one side needs to be cold, and it gives you voltage. Now these, strictly speaking, were not spec'd to work with a wood burning stove. It didn't say they were or they weren't. I think it did say it could go up to sort of like 130 degrees or so. They're part number Tech 12706, and they didn't last all that long. It lasted for about a year or so. But they were cheap. I mean, I think I got 5 of them for £10, so they're £2 each. So, but they lasted for about a year, and they sort of seem to burn out again. So this time I'm going to try and use a one that's actually spec'd for a wood burning stove. Just in case you're interested to know what's inside one of these, this is one that I've opened up. Perhaps I'll do a video sometime about how they work and what's inside. But essentially, it's 2 bits of ceramic. And then bonded onto the inside of it, there's a bunch of, I think, N-type junctions, so transistor junctions essentially, or diode junctions maybe, but they're all wired up in, I think, parallel to give you a bit more current. And there's very, very fine wire, I don't know if you can see, between them all. They go into bus bars at the side and then give you the current. Anyway, so we're not going to use one of those, we're going to use a different one this time. So I bought these ones here. Let's hold it up to the camera so you can see what it is. So this is basically made by a company called Gert, and they were specified for wood burning stove fan, and I paid £12 for 2 of them. Again, they came from Amazon, so we'll use those. Now, before we start the job, I thought I'd just run over the tools that you're going to need. So it's not too many tools. I've probably got more tools here than you would actually need, but I'm showing you some different options here. So obviously, you've got your fan to repair, and you've got your new Peltier effect piles. You're going to need to put a bit of thermal paste. Some of them come with thermal paste, some of them not, but some thermal paste to make a good heat linkage between the base plate on one side of the pile and the fan plate on the other side. So I've got some temperature, sort of high temperature grease here. You're going to need a screwdriver to undo the screws that hold the fan together. You are going to at some point need to make these connections here at the back. So you've got 3 wires that need to get connected together. I don't think there's any point in soldering them. You know, it's not a lot of current. So I've basically in the past twisted them and then put a bit of heat shrink around that. So you're going to need a bit of heat shrink. But you could probably use some sort of I don't know, twist it and maybe use some sort of chocolate strip or something, but you want something that's not going to mind if it gets too hot. Heat shrink seems to be the best. Could use insulating tape, but I think that would get sort of rubbery with the heat and this sort of thing. So I use just some heat shrink. You're only going to need 1 tiny piece of that, so we'll get that out. So I think I'll use maybe this one here. That should fit on. You're going to need something to cut the heat shrink into 2 pieces. So scissors, a pair of pliers will do. You might need to strip the insulation back off of the wires. So these wires will have insulation on them. You need to maybe cut the ends off and strip back. So you'll need some wire strippers. Probably best not to use your teeth. And then finally you will need something to, well not finally, you're going to need something to shrink the heat shrink, so you can use either a lighter to get it, use the flame to shrink the heat shrink, or I might use, I bought a rather nice hot air blower, which you absolutely don't need for this job, but I happen to have one. It's about £50, and that just passes a stream of hot air over something. You're going to shrink it. It's a bit better than a flame because it doesn't burn it, but on the other hand, you know, it is £50, so there you go. So that's that, and then I think finally also there might be some old heatsink compound, so you want some isopropyl alcohol to clean it off, and a bit of cloth. But to be honest, if you don't have isopropyl alcohol, you could use probably some soapy water, a bit of white spirit maybe. You can even use cheap deodorant, will work well. So we're going to make a start. So the first thing to do is to disassemble the fans. I'm just going to get the tools out of the way until we come to use them. And what we need to do now is take the fan to bits. So what I'm going to do here is first of all start off. I'm just going to zoom you in a bit so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. First thing to do is to take the old Peltier Effect pile out. So I'm going to pull these old bits of heat shrink off, and hopefully I won't need to cut the wires any shorter. So that's why, you know, the advantage of not, or actually by the way, when you work on this, take care not to bend the blades, because otherwise it'll go out of balance, so just be a bit cautious with that. But so I'm just going to pull these wires apart. This is why it's quite good just to twist them as opposed to solder them. So you can do that, and then we'll pull the other one off. And there we go. So we've got the two motors and then the Peltier Effect pile. They're all basically just in parallel. So the next thing to do, you'll see there's a screw there and a screw there, and that allows you to separate the base plate from the fan plate. So just unscrew that. Let's get rid of these bits of old heat shrink. So we'll take those off. The screw just comes out very easily, just with a Posi Drive screwdriver, and we want to just undo that one. Again, just taking care not to bend the fins, just keep the top of when I say the fins, I mean the fan blades. Right, so we're just going to carefully lift that out of the way, undo the screws. So we've just got to take these two screws out. I'm going to take them out actually because I want to clean all this up with a bit of isopropyl. So we'll put those out of the way, and the other one. Okay, and then you can see this is where the old Peltier Effect pile was, and you can see the white grease that was used as a heat compound, and actually you can see, like, it's got a crack in it there, so that's not too good. What I didn't make a note actually of which way round this all was, so I believe that it was like, should have made a note, I believe it was that way round. The red wire which comes out of the back is on my right, and I don't know if Peltier Effect piles are a standard, but if you've got it wrong, all that will happen is the fans will rotate the wrong way, and you don't need to take it apart again, just swap over the wiring. So I think it was that way around, and then of course all the reds go together and all the blacks. Right, so the first thing to do is to clean this up a bit. So that's going to be for the bin, but I might save that for a dissection video at some point. And the first thing to do is take some of the isopropyl alcohol and clean up the old plate, to get the old grease off. So we'll clean that one up, and the same on this one. So that's just so we make it a nice new heat thermal contact between the new Peltier Effect pile and the base. So that's it with the isopropyl, and then we need to get our new Peltier Effect piles. Now these ones do actually come with plugs on them, and of course I think when it was new there was a plug on these wires here, which I've cut off subsequently. So we don't need the plug, so we'll cut that off. I'm not going to keep it because I don't think I will be using it again. Also, I want to cut it off quite close to the end, so I've got some long wires on it. So we'll cut that off. Okay. Now this doesn't appear to have any way of indicating whether there's the hot side or the cold side, but what it does seem to have on it is some thermal paste or some sort of silvery thermal pad. Now I think that looks pretty good, and it's sort of soft. I can push my nail into it. So I think I will use that, of course, but I think I'm going to put a bit of grease on it as well, just to make sure it's really good contact. So we'll put a little smidgen on each side. And it's a bit cold, this actually. I'm just going to see what another tube of other. It's a bit softer, I think, actually. So when you tighten the screws up, it does squeeze the plate. So this will get squeezed nice and flat. So we'll put a bit of thermal compound either side, and then I think the other thing I want to do is just strip the wires a little bit. So this is where it's good to have a wire stripper, so you don't end up just slipping too much of the metal inside. So we'll just carefully strip the wire off there, strip the insulation off there, and the same on this side. That's good. Okay. Now, so this was the back of the fan. No, it wasn't. That was the front of the fan. So, no, hang on. It was the back. So I want to put it that way around, and that just sits on there. And then we want to sit that on top there. Okay. So that is hopefully going to be the right way around. If it isn't, by any chance, we don't need to take it apart. We'll just, if the pile's upside down, we will just reverse the wiring, and that's fine. Now, what's happened here is that obviously this screw has got a little sort of spacer inside, which is disintegrated from the heat. Let's see if the same's happened to that one. Actually, I think this must have disintegrated a long time ago. We don't, strictly speaking, need it. We'll just be a bit careful when we tighten it up to make sure everything's nicely aligned. So I'm going to stop speaking, because this will be a little bit of a slow and fiddly process to tighten them up, and then I will put the screws in. Right, so you might have seen me sort of using this little screwdriver. Just the Peltier effect pile had sort of slipped sideways a bit inside, so I just used that to push it back. I don't think you want to over tighten this, because we don't want to crush the pile. This wants to be tight enough to make sure that the heat compound has flattened, and I can see that it's just heat compound is just squirting out the side there, so that's fantastic. So all we need to do now is basically twist these wires together, put some heat shrink sleeving on, and we are good to go. And then I'll test it. So I'll have, because I'm not going to run the wood burning stove today, I might produce an update video of it working. But for now, I will just twist these together and heat shrink it. Now, actually, the wires are a bit short, actually. So I'm going to again probably just go quiet for a bit, speed this up. But all I'm really doing is twisting these wires together to get them to line up. So I'm just going to, as I said, use the cigarette lighter on one to basically get it to shrink. So we'll just do that, run the flame just over the heat shrink, and it will shrink nicely. You don't want to burn anything, and it's just literally to hold the wires together. There's not much current, so in this case, we're not trying to make a sort of like, it wants to be a good connection, but we don't have to go crazy about it and worry about fires and that sort of thing. I mean, after all, it is going to be on a wood burning stove, so that's probably the greater fire risk than the fan. But not if it's been properly installed like ours. Right, so we'll just do the same with the other one. I think I'm not going to use the air. Actually, I will use the air desoldering station, or sorry, hot air machine. So just turn it on, and I'll set it to temperature of. This one's got a fan speed control and also temperature control. So I think we'll set it to 400 degrees. Maybe not so much. Maybe we'll set it to 350, which should be enough. And we'll see if that works. On this one, you can set the temperature over there, and you can set the fan speed here. So I'm going to set it on fan speed of 5, as it turns out. So we just need to get the heat shrink on, which it is, and then okay, so the problem we've got is that this wire is actually just too short, and it's not really going to link up. So I'm just going to get a little bit of cut a little bit of wire off this old one. Use that just to make it a bit longer. Is it a bodge? Well, slightly, but not too bad. So we'll just cut a bit of this, just to extend the length of the wire a little bit. Sorry about that, we had a bit of a power problem and ran out of battery, so hopefully the previous bit of video recorded, otherwise it's all lost. And I was just joining this together. I put an extra extension bit of wire on, and we need to make our last connection here. Okay, so I'm just going to shrink that as well, and we are all good to go. So new pile in. We've got fans connected up, and all we need to do is just test that on a wood burning stove, and we're good. Nice job. I'll do a video tomorrow and let you know how it went.